That's what we want to see. We will always try and find a British opponent. We want to see British fights, so we're always going to look at that before we look overseas. Look, it's the stories, it's the families, it's the fan bases, the British fans. All these fighters come with 2, 3, 4 and up 100 people that have bought into them. It's making sure opportunities exist for when fighters take a risk. And for our job is making sure the structure in place to make these fighters confident enough to get in the ring and take risks, whether it's our fighters, whether it's opponents. And as I say, April Hunter took a tough fight last time. We make sure she's out this time. We want that to be a lesson to all our fighters. Yes, we want you to take risks. Yes, we want you to go into big fights because the rewards are so big if you get beyond it. But we are going to support you, and you are going to get other opportunities. And that's more exciting for fans anyway. Okay. We need to bring in casual fans to this sport, and they're going to get behind people they know, they understand their stories. The sport will never grow unless casuals can buy into it, and they've bought into it with AJ, they bought into it with Tyson Fury, they've bought into it with Dillian Whyte. How do we get them to buy into it week in, week out? And it's through British fighters, and it's through
October Red Boxing here with Ben Shalom. We are here in the lovely, strange weathered Newcastle. Talk to us a little bit about this card and getting it all together, joining up with Wasserman and getting all the fights put on for the viewers.
Yeah, it's been tough, to be honest. Savannah obviously headlined our last Newcastle show, and I think she really came out of her shell that night. She became a superstar, so it was great to bring her back to Newcastle. She now headlines the second show, and I think she feels more comfortable with it. But this isn't necessarily just Newcastle fighters on the card, and I think that shows what pull Savannah has, because most of the tickets sold are coming because people want to watch Savannah Marshall, which is a big change to where she was at, even 6 to 12 months ago. But the card's been tough in the sense Nathan Gorman unfortunately is ill. Zach Chelli was meant to fight Diego Costa. Diego Costa then failed his check weight last night, and after going through moving heaven and earth to make that fight, which I thought was a really good fight. But thankfully, again, Jack Kilgannon, another unbeaten fighter, 11-0 from Manchester, who I know well, has decided he wants to take his opportunity and go for it, which is what we want to see. So we have 4 very good fights now on the TV portion of the card. We've got Brad Ray in another step up for him against a very experienced fighter that presents different problems to what he's had in the past. As I say, the Chelli Kilgannon fight, and then you're into the co-main with Florian Marku in a fight that many people are calling a mistake. He shouldn't be taking that, because Chris has fought not only one British level, but should have actually won at higher level. He's been very unlucky in his career, and he'll be seeing this as his final opportunity. And it's a big step up for Florian. We think now that he's with Grant Smith, he's got everything that he needs to deal with these type of opponents, but he's not fought an opponent at that level before, and it's a big breakout moment for him.
What is it like then, for a promoter? I've been following, obviously, boxers since you used to do the tournaments. I remember Zach Chelli and Lethal Lawal, all of those from the good old boxer days. So you're no stranger to boxing itself, obviously merging with Sky Sports now and working alongside other promoters. When you have these glitches, like you said, check weights, people off sick, etc., etc., as a promoter, how important is it to have a solid team around you to make sure those elements work together to give the boxing fans what they want? I don't think we realise how hard it is behind the scenes, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I don't think fans understand the half of it, but at the same time, that's what it's been about. We're a resilient company. We've gone through 3 or 4 years without Sky, so now that we have Sky, we can't complain. Boxing is boxing. You're always going to have injuries. You're always going to have dropouts. You're always going to have problems that no one else, you could never even speak about, because some of them are so ridiculous that I think it's for behind closed doors only. But then you always have to put on a show. So you've got to think about your plan A's, your plan B's, your plan C's, and we are getting to the point where we have a stable and big enough fighters, in each division, that allow us to solve problems. And we're getting to the point where we feel very confident that we can deal with everything. We've got a really strong team, as you say, and it's early days. But yeah, problems are no stranger to us.
One thing I want to say is the domestic bouts, the UK domestic bouts. Being a boxing fan myself, it's something that is really important. We saw the cruiserweight guys get into it last week. Obviously, Riakporhe was due to fight Turchi, and Lawal was due to fight Juma. That fell to pieces for whatever reasons, injury, sickness, like we've discussed. And then the two guys, we've really, Riakporhe a lot to lose, with nothing really to gain as such. If you're going to get down to the bare bones of it, those two said, you know what, let's have it.
They did, and that's what we want to see. We will always try and find a British opponent. We want to see British fights, so we're always going to look at that before we look overseas, because we know that's what the fans want. We know that's what the fighters want, really. Those are the fights, like I said to Richard, fighting Dion Juma is going to do so much more for your profile than fighting Fabio Turchi. Fabio Turchi might be more seasoned, might be a better fighter, and might get you closer to world titles, and I appreciate that's where we're going with this. But Juma presents that interest, presents that fight that fans want to see, and we want to start putting that throughout the card. There's so many talented fighters in Britain. There's so many fighters that need that opportunity. There's so many unbeaten records that just need to fight each other, and I think we're going to see that more and more, and that's what the fans want to see at the end of the day.
We definitely do like to see it because it makes it personal. I, for one, was one of them that was literally hiding behind the chair when those two did their walkout. It created a natural divide, and the loyalties were literally on the line with it. But that's what made it exciting, because people were forced into picking sides, whether they admitted it on camera or not in the boxing world. It forced people to pick a side. It was that kind of like that anticipation, that excitement that those domestics bring.
100%.
I don't know why the lights just switched
No,
off.
I think it'll be all right. Is it okay?
Who knows?
Look, it's the stories, it's the families, it's the fan bases, the British fans. All these fighters come with 2, 3, 4 and up 100 people that have bought into them, that have followed everything from when they were turning over at 16, 17, and then you see it culminate in a fight where it means everything, in a fight that not only is about winning that fight, but it's about what comes after it. I think the key is, and I said it up there, is making sure opportunities exist for when fighters take a risk. And for our job is making sure the structure in place to make these fighters confident enough to get in the ring and take risks, whether it's our fighters, whether it's opponents. And as I say, April Hunter took a tough fight last time. We make sure she's out this time. We want that to be a lesson to all our fighters. Yes, we want you to take risks. Yes, we want you to go into big fights, because the rewards are so big if you get beyond it. But we are going to support you, and you are going to get other opportunities. And that's more exciting for fans anyway. Even just because a fighter's had a bad night or lost once, he presents another tough test for someone else constantly. And that's what they do in other sports. If we can get fighters fighting each other more regularly, going into tests more regularly, that's what's going to bring up the shows. But as you say, with British fans and the British sport, it's the stories, it's the fighters, it's the fans, it's everything that comes with it that people buy into. And on a platform like Sky, that's really important. We watch the Premier League every week because we watch our clubs go against each other every week, and that's what we get into, and that's our loyalty. And so when there's a fighter from Manchester, or a fighter from Liverpool, or a fighter from London, that's what we like, and that's what fans want to see, and there's always respect at the end of it. And that is the focus of us on Sky, and I think it will increase and increase and increase as fighters know that they can take a loss, that they can go into tough fights.
And we talk about that because I'm quite passionate, I'm quite patriotic towards the British fighters. Something that you've always spoke about is about that grassroots, is about building those foundations at home. When Terence Crawford came over here, part of the Amir Khan camp, his whole camp couldn't believe the energy, the reception that they were feeding off the British fans. It's like you can't go anywhere and get that kind of energy that the UK brings for boxing. So it's nice to see that you're actually pulling that and saying, have a look over here, have a look at our fighters. You know, it's something that, I don't know, I think sometimes we take for granted. Like you said, the grass is always greener. Oh, let's go to other countries. No, let's bring it here.
100%. And Sky is in, I think it's like 15 million homes or whatever. Okay. We need to bring in casual fans to this sport, and they're going to get behind people they know, they understand their stories. The sport will never grow unless casuals can buy into it, and they've bought into it with AJ, they bought into it with Tyson Fury, they've bought into it with Dillian White. how do we get them to buy into it week in, week out? And it's through British fighters, and it's through stories, and it's through their own. And there's a lot of talent. There's no shortage of talent over here, and we want to make sure that more and more fighters want to turn over, more and more fighters want to become professional, because there's that clear career path. And I think boxing is sometimes seen as a lottery as to whether it's a right career or whether it's not. And if we want it to be clear that if you're a competitive fighter, if you're a good fighter, and you want to go into good fights, then you're going to get opportunities, and you're going to get consistent opportunities. And that's a long-term project for us. That's a long-term project that the board want to see is more opportunities and more fighters deciding, you know what, I'm going to turn over, I'm going to become a professional because I'm going to get my chances.
And you have got quite a big stable that's now starting to develop nicely. And we spoke about the AJ, we spoke about Dillian White, we spoke about Tyson Fury. Who do you see as your, if you're going to put it, who are your fighters that you see are the ones that are really going to bring the eyes to Boxer Sky Sports?
I think people will obviously look at the Olympians, look at the Fraser Clarks, look at the Caroline Dubois, and say, and even the Savannah Marshall, and say they're the big stars, they're the ones that are going to grow on the platform. But you have to look outside of that as well. You have to look at almost a diamond in the rough like Adam Azim or even Bradley Ray that we think can go all the way, but just haven't been given those opportunities or come through what people will have expected from them. Going to the Olympics, being with Ron McCracken, there's a lot of talent outside of that as well. And luckily, we've got a platform that can create superstars. So if we believe in your talent and we believe in your personality, we can make you famous. It's as simple as that. And I think you're seeing fighters now thrive on the activity, thrive on the shows. Adam Azim performed the other night incredibly. We think he can go all the way. But similarly, there's other people that people might not heard of that are going to start seeing on shows that we think can come right to the very top as well. And it's exciting for us because not only do we get the opportunity to bring talent through from the bottom, the top fighters now want to sign for us. The top fighters now want to be with Sky and with Boxer because I think they trust what's going on. We've put on some massive shows. We've put on some box office shows as well. And now, rather than what it was at the start where we're trying to convince people of our vision and this is what it will be like, they need to see it to believe it, and now they're seeing it. Now it's getting to the part where, we've got to be selective about who we think is the stars of the future.
And speaking of that, I heard you mention that you've got a couple of signings that you're going to be announcing on the weekend, but obviously you're not going to tell me who they are because it's for the weekend. But what attracts you? If there's a fighter out there watching this, what would make them appeal to Boxer?
Good question. I think obviously a certain level of talent, but after that I think it's hard work, integrity, honesty, not messing around and wanting to take fights. We don't want fighters to take fights because we want them to risk their careers. We want them to take fights because we want them to be seen on a big platform, show their courage, show how talented they are, and then come again. Conor Marsden, Southern Area champion, has taken a massive risk last week going in there with Adam Azim and getting knocked out really in 30 seconds. And that's a tough one to take as a young fighter. And I messaged him after and I said, look, we'll find a way. You've helped us there. You've been on a big show. No one wants to get in the ring with Adam Azim, but it's about making sure he has a career, making sure he sticks with it. He's a talented fighter and he's been caught in a bad situation. But that's what the sport is. It's about risks. It's about highs and lows. We want fighters that can respond to lows and not just want to be protected and not want to be superstars. And that's where you get the real fan favourites. And I hope that fighters will understand that with us and not be afraid to take those opportunities, because you learn from it and you come back, and we'll start to show that fighters can lose on our shows and still have a career.
I like that. It's a positive ethos, because I think we do live in that era where it is that protected. You need to, you can never lose. Fighters out there worrying how much they're going to lose. Will they ever get called back to box again? So it's quite refreshing to hear a promoter say, okay, you may lose sometime, but we're still going to get you back out there. We're still going to work with you. And this is that kind of grassroots mentality that you take into the big stage.
100%. And look, it's still a business, but our ethos is fans want to see winners and losers, and they want to see competitive fights, and so it's just about facilitating that. But as I say, it will always be a business, and we'll always have that balance. But we think the business is best served by fighters taking risks, and I think fighters will get opportunities thereafter. Jez Smith has lost a few times, but he boxes all the time, and he's on big stages all the time. I'm not saying everyone has to go to that extreme, but what I'm trying to say is that fights are there to be taken. Fans understand when you take a fight on 4 days' notice. Fans understand when you jump up a weight because you want an opportunity. They respect that, and opportunities will come again. And if you give a good account of yourself, you're going to get there. And I think boxing is booming right now, and there's no reason to worry about getting out and getting opportunities. It's about being seen. It's about being on the biggest platform and taking your chances.
October Red Boxing, Ben Shalom, thank you so much for your time, and we'll definitely catch up again soon if you don't run off.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah. Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.